Hi guys, welcome to the Art of Server. So today's video is going to show you a common mistake that people make when they're mounting their hard drives to the Dell 11th, 12th, and 13th gen servers. So this is a mistake that a lot of my customers have encountered, and I've had to help them through this and figure it out. And so I figure it's time for me to make a video so that other people can benefit from I guess this little tip to avoid a certain pitfall. Okay, so what I have in front of me here is a Dell hard drive tray, and as you can see on the side here, let me put this in the camera for you so you can see that it says SAS/SATAu. Okay, so a lot of people are using SATA drives, and if you have a SATA drive and you're not familiar with this stuff, maybe this is your first Dell server, you might say, well, hey, this tray will work. It works for both SAS and SATAu, whatever the U means. And you'll look at the holes for mounting the drives, and they have little markings on top of them. And like, for example, these holes right here have little tiny markings that I doubt you'll be able to see this in the camera here, but it basically says SATAu on top of these holes here. And there are two holes here that have markings on top of them that say SAS. Okay? And so if you were using SATA hard drives, you might be tempted to say, well, they're not SAS hard drives, and this says SATA something, SATAu, not sure what the U is for, but it's at least SATA, so I'll put my hard drives and mount them aligned to those SATAu holes. Okay? And if you did that, you would have something like this. Okay, so this is a SATA hard drive. Okay, so I think you can see it right here. It says SATA 6 gigabit per second. Okay, and if you look at the connector, you'll see that there's a gap between the power connector and the data connector, and so those are SATA connectors. Okay, and so if you mount it to those SATAu holes, this is what the hard drive would look like, and this would be incorrect. Okay, so this will not work, and I'll show you why. So if you mount it like this, and here I have a SAS backplane. Okay, this is not actually a Dell backplane, this is a Supermicro backplane, but it's similar enough that it'll illustrate the point. Okay, so if I have the backplane like this, and I start installing the hard drive like this, you'll see that the ends of the tray will hit the backplane before the hard drive connector, the SAS and SATA hard drive connector, will be able to engage. So let me move this a little closer to the camera so you can see this. All right, so if you install the drive like this, those rails on the tray are going to hit that backplane before the drive can be connected to the actual SAS connectors. Okay, so that's why if you mount it in those SATAu holes, that this is not going to work. Okay, so instead, if you have, whether you have SAS or SATA hard drives, use the holes that have the SAS marking. Okay, regardless, make sure that the back of the drive is flush with the rails like this, where you don't have the rails sticking out the end, because otherwise the drive will not make contact with the connector on the backplane. Okay, so I know that's can be very confusing if you're new to this, because if you have SATA hard drives, you might say, well, it says clearly it's marked as SATAu. Whatever the U means, it's SATA, close enough, right? So yeah, that's not the case. Whether you have SATA hard drives or SAS hard drives, use the holes with the SAS marking. Okay, because you need the hard drive to be flush at the rear and not have the rails sticking out beyond the hard drive, which will prevent the hard drive from engaging into the backplane. Okay, so this is a very, very common mistake, and you know, if you're one of the customers, if you're watching this and you're one of the customers that I helped out with this issue, you know, don't feel bad. A lot of people have run into this. I've helped many, many, many people with this problem, where they buy, you know, a HBA from me, or perhaps one of those mini monolithic cards that are flashed to IT mode. They install it in their server. It seems to work, but they install the hard drives and none of the hard drives are showing up and they're wondering why. Okay, so this is one of the most common mistakes that happens, and don't feel bad. That SATAu, that sucker is certainly can be misleading if you're not familiar with what SATAu is. Okay, so all right. Now, if you're curious, you're wondering like, well, okay, what in the world is the SATAu thing? All right, well, I'm not 100% sure what it is for in the 11th, 12th, and 13th gen trays like this one, but I can tell you that in the previous generation, like the 10th generation and earlier, SATAu trays had this gap because there was an additional circuit board that you could install at the end of the hard drive. Okay, and so for example, in MD1000 and MD3000 JBODs, those are SAS devices, SAS JBODs. But if you wanted to install a SATA drive, and you could install a SATA drive in the SAS holes and just plug it in, it would work, but some of the features would be missing because SAS and SATA are, there's a big difference. One of the big differences is that you see in SATA, this is a SATA hard drive, that gap there, okay, between the data and the power connector, there's a gap there. So in a SAS hard drive, there's no gap. That gap is bridged, and on the other side of that gap, you'll see electrical contacts, and that's actually for a second data channel. Okay, so with SAS hard drives, there are two data channels that are, available for use, and some of those JBODs would take advantage of that by being able to split the JBOD or having dual controllers and redundant connections to your drive. So in case one controller went down, the other one would continue working. So with the SAS hard drives, you had those kind of so-called enterprise features. But if you wanted to use a SATA drive in one of those devices, you could still enable those features by adding that so-called interposer board that attaches to the back of the hard drive. And it basically had a little logic chip that would convert the SATA connector into a SAS connector and provide that second channel. Okay. Now there are also interposer boards that convert SATA to like fiber channel and other types of storage connectivity. There were also those as well. Now I don't know. I haven't seen those in the 12th or 13th gen or 11th gen machines. So I'm not sure why Dell still has these SAS/SATAu trays in this generation of servers. Maybe there are some storage arrays or where that's available still. I don't know. I haven't seen them, but at least in the previous generation, that's what SATAu was for. And so do not mount your SATA drives in the SATAu holes unless you are using some sort of interposer board there. Okay, because otherwise the rail sticking out beyond the end of the hard drive was going to prevent this hard drive from making contact to the backplane, as I showed you earlier, like that. All right, so anyway, hope this helps you out. If you're new to Dell servers and you're having some problems with your hard drives not showing up, go back and make sure you've got the hard drives mounted in the right holes. Make sure to use not the SATAu holes, but to use the SAS holes for your SATA hard drives. And then they should make proper contact with the backplane, and hopefully everything just works. All right, so if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe if you like to see more helpful tips like this. And thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.